Welcome to another lecture of human anatomy and physiology, and in today's lecture we will be studying in details about the axial skeletal system and the appendicular skeletal system. So let's start. So talking about the axial skeletal system, there are in all 80 bones which are present in the axial skeletal system, and it forms the central axis of the human body, right? They include the bones present in your head, vertebral column, ribs and sternum. Now the main function of the axial skeletal system is to provide support and protection for the brain, spinal cord and the organs in the ventral body cavity. It also provides a surface for the attachment of muscles. It directs the respiratory movement and it stabilizes portions of the appendicular skeleton, right? The axial skeletal system forms the central axis of the human body, and it includes the bones of the skull, the ossicles of the middle ear, the hyoid bone of the throat, the vertebral column and the thoracic cage or the rib cage, right. Now in this particular image you can see the structure of your cranial bones, right. So the skull basically consists of two parts, one being your cranial bones and the other being your facial bone. So in all there are 22 bones which are present in the skull, and they are further subdivided into two categories, one being your cranial bone and the other being your facial bone. And the skull, it supports the structures of the face and it protects the brain. So in this particular image you can see the cranial bones which are 8 in number, right. They enclose the brain and serves as an attachment site for the muscle of head and neck, right. The 8 cranial bones include the frontal bone, 2 parietal bone, 2 temporal bone, the occipital bone, the sphenoid bone and the ethmoid bone. Now in this particular slide you can see the facial bones. There are 14 facial bones that form the face, and they provide cavities for the sense organs. They protect the entrance to the digestive and respiratory tract, and they serve as an attachment point for the facial muscle. In all there are 14 facial bones, right, and the different facial bones are nasal bones, maxillary bone, zygomatic bone, palatine, vomer, lacrimal bone, inferior nasal conchae and mandibles. Now this is the structure of your ordinary ossicles, which includes malleus, incus and stapes. There is one pair of malleus, one pair of incus and one pair of stapes. Now coming to your vertebral column. Now the vertebral column or the spinal column, it surrounds and protects the spinal cord, supports the head and acts as an attachment point for the ribs and muscles of the back as well as the neck. So the adult vertebral column is composed of 26 bones, right. 24 are vertebrae, one is sacrum and one is coccyx bone, right. In this particular image you can see cervical curve, then you can see the thoracic curve, and then you can see the lumbar curve, and at the end you can see the sacral curve, right. So in the cervical curve you can see the cervical vertebrae, in the thoracic curve you can see the thoracic vertebrae, and in the lumbar curve you can see the lumbar vertebrae, and in the sacral curve you can see the sacrum and the coccyx bone. Now the next is your thoracic cage. Now the thoracic cage is also termed as your rib cage, which is the skeleton of the chest, right, and it consists of ribs and sternum. There are 12 pairs of ribs, meaning in all there are 24 bones present in the ribs and one sternum. So sternum is also termed as your breastbone, and it is a long flat bone which is located at the anterior of the chest. It is formed from 3 bones that fuse together in adulthood, and the ribs are 12 pairs which are long curved bones that attach to the thoracic vertebrae and curve towards the front of the body, forming the rib cage. Now coming to the appendicular skeletal system. This mainly consists of your upper and lower extremities or the limbs and their attachment. Now coming to the first part of your appendicular skeletal system, your pectoral griddle. It consists of your clavicle, which is termed as your collarbone, and your scapula. So there is one pair of clavicle and one pair of scapula. In all, there are 4 bones which are present in your pectoral griddle. Now coming to upper extremity mainly consists of your bones which are present in your arm, right. So it consists of humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals and phalanges. So there is one pair of humerus, one pair of radius, one pair of ulna, 8 pairs of carpals, 5 pairs of metacarpals and 14 pairs of phalanges. Now pelvic griddle is also termed as your hip bone. So there is one pair of hip bone present in the appendicular skeletal system. Now coming to your lower extremities. Lower extremities include the bones of your legs. So there is one pair of femur, one pair of tibia, one pair of fibula, one pair of patella, 7 pairs of tarsals, 5 pairs of metatarsals and 14 pairs of phalanges. So thank you so much dear students. This was all in today's lecture. If you have any queries, any doubt in today's lecture, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much for attending today's lecture. Thank you.